The Locked On Podcast Network presents the College Sports Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in college sports. From our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The College Sports Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in college sports. You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Sonny, should we even talk to Jacob, or should we just make him sit there and suffer in silence? Because I knew
I was going to come on this show. I knew I knew what I was walking into. It's 2v1. That's fine. I'll defend us. I will defend the Hoosiers. Nobody else will, but I'll do it.
You will. You are going to have to, because I imagine Sonny isn't going to pick against the Illini in this spot. This is such an awesome way to kickstart Big Ten play. Like this is truly excellent, because this is a great matchup. You've got two brands that have rapidly ascended in the last couple of years. Indiana, a big story last year. Illinois, for those who follow college football, was a huge story last year. Sonny, let's talk about our Illini in this particular game. My confidence is riding high, because I like Brett Bielema, I like Luke Altmaier, I like their identity, I like their roster. I think they've replaced what they have lost. You have seen that. Talk about the stud they've got a wide receiver, as you know. So many reasons to like Illinois in this game, Sonny.
Let's go ahead and end the show right there, Spencer. I absolutely agree. I think you nailed it. It's one of those where, if you and I are the louder ones in this particular episode, it's about time, because all over my timeline, it's been Hoosiers fans just antagonizing, just trolling constantly with memes here and there. I've never experienced something like this before over a program that 14 months ago nobody cared about. And so for me, it's one of those where if I circled this date as soon as it was released, I know Brett Bielema has. And I know he said it himself at the post-game press conference against Western Michigan. He said that he had circled, or he started scouting Indiana last year. He knows how important this game is both for the Illinois program, and he knows how important this game is for the Indiana program. And I think Brett's going to have these boys ready, and I can't wait.
I am beyond excited. And Jacob, we'll allow you to defend the Hoosiers' honor here. You're so welcome. Just don't forget how kind and gracious I am as host of this particular program. But you feel good about Indiana. So do the sportsbooks, by the way. Our friends at FanDuel have got this Indiana minus 5.5. Spoiler alert. That's our best bet of the week for me. And my picks have been on fire this year, so that's a great sign for Illinois fans. But you feel
I was going to be able to talk here, or
yeah, I was just about to get to that. You feel good about the Hoosiers. Why?
I do feel really good. And it's funny you bring up the betting line, because I actually did a show about that this week on Locked On Hoosiers, because that scares the crap out of me. It really, really does. I genuinely thought Illinois would be favored in this game. I think Indiana's still the better team. I think Indiana wins, but the betting line is a little fishy to me. And so I talked about that earlier in the week. But look, Curt Cignetti's been here before. Indiana has been here before, not in their history, but in recent memory, as Sonny alluded to. Look, that's no secret. Indiana football up until last year was a joke. It was embarrassing, and not a lot of people were in on it. But now it's a new era, and Curt Cignetti showed he can win games against tough opponents. The talent is even better than it was a year ago, and I think this is going to be a rock fight for 4 quarters against Illinois. But I think Fernando Mendoza has proven he is the correct answer at quarterback. I think Indiana's defense is one of the best in college football, and it's a home game at night in Bloomington. It doesn't get any better than this. I think it's a 4-quarter game. I really do, but I just think Indiana's more talented where it matters most.
I do fully expect Bloomington to be rocking. It's going to be a great visual. I'm excited to watch all of that. But Jacob, I do not say this in trolling fashion. Who is the best team Curt Cignetti has beaten since he got to Indiana?
It's a good question. It is. And I think you're looking at last year's schedule and the 2 games that everybody wants to talk about, right? Ohio State, Notre Dame. Indiana didn't win those games, but you did beat Michigan last year, who ended up getting some solid wins down the stretch. So that's probably my answer, is Michigan last year. but Indiana got better as the year went on, and they're rolling into this year. So you're absolutely right. It's prove it mode for Indiana, and you've got opportunities against Illinois, Oregon, and Penn State this year. So Michigan's my answer, but it's going to be Illinois after this week.
Sonny, refresh my memory. What was the score of the Illinois-Michigan game last season?
I will tell you, I know Illinois became the victor in that game as well, but I wanted to drop a note. Saturday during kickoff, it'll be 1,750 days since the Indiana Hoosiers beat a football team with a number in front of their name. It's one of those. Last year, Illinois beat 4 ranked teams. Indiana beat 0. It's great when you can beat Sisters of the Poor 73-0, but what does that actually prove about how good of a football team that you are? Bret Bielema, it may not always be the sexiest way, but he, more often than not, comes out on top, and that's what I'm looking forward to on Saturday. A little humbling of my Hoosier fan friends.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely more on the line for Curt Cignetti in this spot, because if he wins, I'm not going to suddenly be one of those guys, Illinois is not that good. Illinois is a pullback team. They were overrated last year. Like, I've never been that kind of guy, and I will give Curt Cignetti his flowers if he winds up winning the game and go, okay, that's the best win of the Curt Cignetti era, because I think it pretty clearly would be. I think this would fall into the top 3 of the Bret Bielema era. Sonny, correct me if I'm wrong there, but I don't think it would be number 1. I think South Carolina last year in the bowl game, frankly, would have to be pretty high on that list. I think the symbolism of beating Michigan was a pretty big deal. So when you're talking about playing in a game with these sorts of stakes and having your team ready emotionally for this sort of opponent, I go with the Illini as being the more prepared team for that.
I completely agree. I mean, last year, we got blasted by Oregon. I'll grant that, but a game again in Beaver Stadium.
You did? I don't remember that. Oh wait, yeah, I do.
Okay, moving on. A game at Penn State. Illinois was within 1 score with 4 minutes left in that game. A Penn State team that was, many argue was a top 5 football team last year. It's Illinois, as long as they can keep themselves and put themselves in a situation to win at the end. Again, you mentioned the South Carolina victory. There were 9.5-point underdogs going into that game. I just think that the number, when it comes to the Vegas line, doesn't matter. And quite honestly, if I'm being very truthful for you, I love to see that Indiana is 5.5-point favorites. You don't think Bret Bielema is making that locker room aware that, hey, you are ranked number 9. The Hoosiers are ranked, I think 19. Well, that 19 team is 5.5 points favored over you. I love it. I think that, if anything else, makes me more confident that Bret's just going to have these guys ready.
It's down to 4.5, according to our friends at FanDuel. I'm still taking Illinois in the points because I like them to win the game outright. How could that not be one of my best bets? Jacob, we'll get to the matchups and the breakdown, how this one gets decided in the next segment. But take us home on what this game means to Indiana and how a win would impact the program right now.
I mean, just being truthful, it would shut everybody up. It really would. It would show that Indiana is still a really good football team, that Curt Cignetti is still one of the best coaches in the Big Ten, if not college football. And this propels the Hoosiers into what is a tougher schedule than it was last year. Indiana goes on the road to Iowa next week, then a road game at Oregon, couple of weird games in between before Indiana goes to Penn State. They're not winning all of these games, but you got to win a couple of them. And if you can beat Illinois this weekend, I think you can beat Iowa next weekend, and then you split Penn State or Oregon, you're back in the college football playoffs. That's what this game means. College football playoff implications for Indiana and for Illinois.
Yeah, I don't think that you're out of it if you lose this one. Your margin just gets very, very thin.
Correct.
And if you have this feather in your cap, that can be something that works in your favor if you're, let's say, 10-2 and not in the Big Ten championship game, and it's 2 of Oregon, Ohio State, and Penn State, and it's these 2 teams trying to get in. Yeah, 10-2 might be good enough if you have this particular win.
Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's a 401k or properties or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money. without ever touching a spreadsheet. I linked all my accounts to Monarch and immediately spotted a few subscriptions I wasn't even using. Canceling those all can save you money every month. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNFL.
Depth chart surprises. We got an updated depth chart from the Oklahoma Sooners. Let's discuss that.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners.
Updated depth chart. Jay, what stood out to you the most?
So we've got, of course, Ott is on there. He's an or at the third back with Xavier Robinson. So that means they're going to try to get him more integrated. We just got to get more engaged and get him going. Yeah. Fasusi's an or with Baklinko. So we know Fasusi had the boot on at Temple, but it looked like he was running around trying to play and have fun on said boot. Bro, slow it down. We don't need you to, if you're actually trying to preserve your body, we don't want you to do something to hurt your body. Slow that down. But truth be told, though, the one biggest one, Keontae Lewis is listed as the starting wide receiver with no or. That, to me, jumped out pretty big. You know, we've talked about this or whatnot last show, wondering if Keontae was going to play or if we get us an appearance from Giovanni Gibson. He is not shown on the depth chart here right now. But there's one last thing, though, that I want to point out because I thought this was very, very intriguing. That on the kick return, we don't have Ott anymore. It's Satania and Peyton Bowen.
Totally missed that. But that, to me, that's interesting. I want a dynamic playmaker back there. Jade Knott should be that guy. Like you said, there's just something not quite right about him right now. And so give me somebody that's going to be a little bit more assertive, a little bit more aggressive, has some comfortability back there returning kicks. I don't need any more bobbled kick returns. I don't need Oklahoma starting inside the 10 because we have a guy back there bobbling kicks. Just can't have it. So Isaiah Satania gives you an opportunity to get some plus performances out of the kick return game. More often than not, he's going to fair catch it or it's going to be a touchback going out the back of the end zone. But there are going to be opportunities here and there for him to make something happen. Get the ball in my dude's hands as many times as you can. Please do that. On Luke Baklenko, the guy's played well. You know, he's kind of flown under the radar since coming over. To me, he was a nice veteran addition. Reminds you a little bit of the, McCade Matire addition, somebody that, okay, you're not sure exactly what you're going to get, but you're probably going to get solid play. And so far, he's been that for Oklahoma. Now it's just a matter of, will he be able to hold up when called upon against SEC competition? I mean, he's been one of your better tackles this season. Obviously, Michael Fasusi is the name you want out there because against Michigan, he was everything that you expected a 5-star to be. He was as advertised. Going back and watching some of that, his pass sets were fantastic. Yeah. He's going to get better in the run game, but as a pass protector, he's already really, really good. So if Fasusi is ready and healthy to play, he's obviously going to be the guy getting most of the reps, but Baklenko hasn't been bad either. He's been solid. So that's a good place to be. I thought it was interesting that, like you mentioned, Keontae Lewis was listed as a starter, not with a co-starter next to him, but Ivan Carrion is the next guy up. If Keontae can't go, which I don't expect him to go this week, simply because of the significance of the hit and the concussion and how long he was on the ground, I don't expect him to play this week. But Ivan Carrion is somebody that they've been very happy with and very pleased with his performances through fall camp. They called him one of the most consistent wide receivers that they had. We saw highlights out of fall camp of him making some pretty impressive grabs in contested catch situations. You need to have a guy like that that's going to be able to go up and get the football. The size is already pretty impressive. Now it's just a matter of getting him out there in live competition against a really, I'm not going to say a really good secondary, but against a good defense, and letting him go make some plays. He's not going to be a dude that creates a ton of separation. You're going to have to throw it to him in contested catch situations, but he's really good on that vert wide receiver route tree where he can run those comebacks. He can run, the fade, the go, win that way. And I think he provides something for John Mateer.
Yeah, and he makes some nice, one-handed catches too. So it's always a plus to have that going there as well.
Almost came down with that one against Temple.
He really was like a game of inches, baby. It's always a game of inches. Understand that. So, but I do expect to see him. And honestly, I can see Elijah Thomas getting some burn as well. Like he's right there behind him. And I can see them sneaking him in. I can see them sneaking Zion Kearney in to get some, not only some X run, but also in the slot. Think about it this way. You put Zion Kearney out there and you move either Burks or Satania to the outside. You've got a big physical wide receiver that's going against not only linebackers, but they're going against nickel corners, who are usually the smaller guys. They may be quicker, but I mean, Kearney's big and he's physical. And so we saw that even in some of the plays when the two passes he caught from Mateer of being able to catch and hang on to it in a physical situation. And so I anticipate more Kearney, more like a lot more continued, because he's showing that he's trusted. He can be trusted. That's one of the things when it comes to wide receiver. Can I trust you to catch the ball? Can I trust you to be in the right spot in your route tree? That way, when I throw it to that spot, if it's a timing route, your body will physically be there. If I can count based upon how I know you run, I think Zion Kearney's going to build up that continued trust and get some more burn as we get into the bigger games. When Giovanni Gibson gets here, though, that's when we're really going to be able to see some fun, because then you'll have a whole bunch of big dudes that you can play. But in this game, I think this may actually be either the Burks or Satania game, because it's been good seeing both of them show out in separate games. I think one of those two are going to as well. But defense, though, John, this defensive depth chart is fascinating.
Yeah,
there is a
really
substantial. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 oars. Literally every position.
Yeah, what stood out to me is Kendall Dolby, KD15. He's not listed among the Cheetahs. He's strictly a cornerback.
Yep.
So, and he's listed as an oar with Gentry Williams. You know, Kendall's working his way back from a variety of ailments that, you know, he had during fall camp. Gentry Williams working his way back from a hamstring. Sounds like both guys are going to be available to play. Jacoby Johnson got back into the lineup. He'll rotate with Cortland Guillory, but you got to like where cornerback is headed. The trajectory on that is really, really nice, and they're getting healthy at the right time. So that's encouraging and exciting.
Yeah, Boganowski's sitting here as the starter in the oar with Robert Spears Jennings too. That's fascinating.
I think that's alphabetical. That's my theory.
Your theory is alphabetical, but Dolby is before Williams.
Right. D before W, Jay.
But Williams is on top of Dolby.
Okay, well.
Right. I'm in the exact same boat. I don't know. You may be right on it, because Cortland over Jacoby, Peyton over, Hardy over Omarion. I don't know.
No, maybe it doesn't work, because Heineke
Dominic
comes before Lewis, Williams comes before Stone, Jackson before
Jackson.
Okay.
And Halton. Yeah, it's a lot of
Maybe Michael Boganowski's overtaking our guy RSJ. I mean, that is surprising to me. I'm a bit surprised by that if that's the case, but Michael Boganowski's played well when he's gotten on the field, and he's playing with authority out there.
Oh, he's authority. Now, this is the other one too that jumped out to me as well. Not only, of course, the linebacker space is set up with oars, and that's the expectation. You expected that to have all those oars, because we're playing a lot of linebackers.
And they're all playing well.
Exactly. But at the Cheetah, as you mentioned, before the first set of depth charts we've seen, there was no oar on the Cheetah. There is an oar now with Kendall Daniels and Reggie Powers, which this is what this tells me. This is my theory. We're going to see Kendall play more Will in this game and Reggie play more Cheetah. And you unleash the opportunity to go really hit somebody. Because right now, the oar for Will is Kip, Owen, and Kendall. So it's all three. And Kendall Daniels has basically played just about every snap this season. He's been on the field a lot. And that honestly surprised the heck out of me. Yeah. So, because he's picked up everything so much, 93 snaps, which is 5th on the team, I'm sensing that the trust with Brent Venables in him is that they're going to want to play him in different spots and really confuse Jackson Arnold, because he's never seen Kendall Daniels before.
Yeah, and I think they want to probably get bigger, because they know Auburn's going to want to try to establish the ground game. Yep. And so they're going to throw out some 4-3 looks where it's, Kobe, Kip, Kendall Daniels as the trio of linebackers. And you're probably looking at Kobe as playing that Sam linebacker situation that we don't see much in modern football, because you're running it a lot of nickel. You're running 4 down linemen and 2 linebackers, and you have a nickel backer out there generally. But I think they're going to want to play big and try to just use 7 in the box and see if their defensive backfield, their 2 corners and safeties, can hold up against Eric Singleton and Cam Coleman without having to drop more guys into coverage to win that way. I think they want to make sure that they are not getting run on by Jackson Arnold, by the Auburn rushing attack. They want to make sure that they keep all that in front of them and then get to 2nd and 3rd and longs and then get after the passer.
Exactly. No runs allowed. We've got to stop all of that.
Yeah. No runs. We're going to get them some constipation medicine.
The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the weekend with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however I like to bet in that moment. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in the action live as it unfolds. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little bit more energy to your Sunday. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
As we inch closer and closer to game day between the Utah Utes and Texas Tech Red Raiders, what's at stake for both sides? And who has the edge in Texas Tech's offense taking on the Utah Utes defense?
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
I really want to talk about what's at stake for both these teams before diving more into the matchup, talk about who wins, everything there. I think for Utah, really quick, Chris, this is the game. We mentioned it towards the end of yesterday's show, where if you're Utah and you came in as the preseason favorite last year and you're starting to earn some hype and love this year now too for what you have done so far this year and just the history of the program, can this Utah team prove that they are here in the Big 12 right now, ready to roll? They did it last year against Oklahoma State. We thought ended up being fool's gold. They were not a contender. They were not good. They missed a bowl game. This is your opportunity. The whole world watching on Fox, a Texas Tech team that a top 3 transfer portal class in that a lot of people are very high on and think can win the Big 12. This is Utah's opportunity in a moment to say, hey, Big 12, we are here and we're ready to contend in this conference right now.
Well, I think it's very important to remind everybody, because was that one team was ranked last year in Stillwater and one team was close to being ranked? Am I right?
It was a top 15 matchup, Chris.
Yeah, that's right. And yet, boy, it's a long season.
Mm-hmm.
It is a long season. I do think, as we sit here right now, these are probably 2 of the top 4 to 5 teams in the league.
It's my Big 12. It's my Big 12 title game pick. This matchup again. Like
Okay.
I have you did a good game here, and then I have a meeting them again. I'm really high on both these teams. Yeah, rematch.
Okay, rematch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I just think it's a mistake to it's easy to do. We get caught up in the recency bias, but it's I'm just not ready to say to cast off Kansas State and say you'll never hear from them again.
Yeah.
I just have seen too much there before where they just do this and then they end up winning 7 or 8 in a row. Iowa State is very good. I think TCU is sneaky. BYU I think could be sneaky, but I wouldn't put them in the top 4 or 5. But I was going to say Baylor. I think Baylor is sneaky. They lose to Auburn. Arizona State loses to Mississippi State. Theoretically, these are blows to your at-large resume, but you're still in it. And Kansas State, where everybody's looking, they lost to Arizona. Well, that doesn't count against the conference standings. Now they're one.
I forgot about that. That's crazy.
Yeah, that deal's a bit of a mess right now. But I do think these 2 fairly untested teams seem to be 2 teams that could have some staying power. But I mean, tell me, JT, do you think you can roll through and beat if you look at, because they've got Arizona State, there's a trip to they got to play Baylor. Talking about the Utes, they've got to play.
Arizona State comes to us, Kansas State comes to us, but we go to Baylor and Kansas to end the year late.
Yeah,
and to Provo.
Yeah, and I mean, so those are all landmines. And I will tell you, on paper, people are going to go, you're going to go into Morgantown and roll. It's a weird trip, man.
Ask Pitt.
I've done that many times, and weird stuff happens in Morgantown. And you can go win by 40, or you could end up having John Denver singing and they're burning couches, and you're going, what just happened? But having said all that, this game is important, and these are two. I think these are two contenders. Yeah, I think these two teams have some staying power, and the reason I say that is because I think these two teams are very good up front on both sides of the ball. Here's what I know. With what we don't know, here's what I know. They don't suck up front. They have depth up front. This allows you to have staying power in this league because I think you're built up front differently than a lot of other teams. So
I think it's a great point. I think one thing that is really interesting, and as you mentioned, like I'm talking about Utah, and because I do think this is a very important game for Utah to beat Texas Tech, especially because both of us, Chris, want to have a chance at the college football playoff. Maybe if we even go 11-1 in the regular season, that's going to get tougher for whoever obviously loses. Chris, you guys spent a lot in the offseason. It was a big storyline. There's a massive thing going on there. We live in an overreaction and hot take world. If you guys lose, even maybe it'll be a close game of loss, and maybe it's a 10, whatever it ends up being, how much do you think there'll be pressure and just the noise will be about, we put all this in and we couldn't even go up to a 5-7. We talk about why some of that's not like fair to say, but a 5-7 Utah team from last year and get a win. What do you think about all that?
Yeah, luckily here in Lubbock, there's a lot of alignment. Everybody's on the same page. I think they would try to tell you that they tried to control what they could, and then you have to kind of go do it. And there's programs in the last 20, 30 years that feel like they've been knocking on the door. Like in my backyard here in this state, I feel like A&M has been so talented and resourced this out and hired this coach, and they've been knocking on the door for years and years and just can't ever deliver. So it's hard. Okay, we understand that it's winning in this sport is hard. You're not guaranteed anything. I don't. It's funny. Is Joey on the hot seat? Is like he's got to win or else? I just don't see it that way. And the people, more importantly, the people that funded a lot of this, they don't see that way either. This is a big picture. We're going to kind of try to take advantage of this window and all these things, and we're just going to keep swinging. But is there pressure? Absolutely. I mean, Cody Campbell, who's kind of been the face of a lot of what they've done in the portal class, but is also trying to help schools like Tech and Utah and the Big 12 and all that and fight the Big 10 and the SEC from ruling over everything and taking all the money and all that. He's going to be at this game. He will be in attendance. And, Cody was an offensive lineman back in the mid-2000s for Coach Leach, but he's done extremely well in the oil and gas business. And but he will be here. And he was kind of at the forefront of what they were trying to do here. And he's the one that he played offensive line. He knows we got to be better up front on both sides of the ball. And that's, because he would be the first one to tell you when it was in the midst of happening, he flat out told me, I'm going to be really pissed if we don't have one of the best portal classes in the country. Because that was the goal. They knew they needed help immediately. They knew they needed, and it's all those things. So, but now it's show and tell. And now that this week feels a little bit different than when you're playing Kent State or Arkansas Pine Bluff or even an Oregon State team. So, and if you lose it, there will be plenty of people that point and laugh and say, what are you doing? But it's a long way to go, and we'll kind of get to that here in a little bit.